Welcome, everyone. Now, on June 8th, this year, 2024, the Israeli military killed at least 276 people and left nearly 700 injured at the Nusayrat refugee camp, where hundreds of displaced Palestinian families were sheltering in Gaza. UNRWA-run camp was still reeling from another attack on June 6, just 2 days earlier, where Israeli strikes by occupation forces left 37 people dead, including 14 children. Now, the week of July 13th, about a month later, 60 people were killed in an attack on Gaza City, most of them children. 100 killed in the Al-Mawasi area of Khan Yunis, declared a safe zone by the Israeli regime. Israel then carried out a second massacre targeting a prayer group in the Al-Shati refugee camp, killing more than 25 Palestinians. And again, 40 people were killed and 60 injured in an airstrike early Tuesday this week on a tent camp in Khan Yunis in the Al-Mawasi area as well. A tent camp densely populated with displaced Palestinians, no electricity or running water, no walls or structures to shield families from the force and shrapnel, multiple 3,000-pound bombs provided by the United States and used by the Israelis against civilians. So how many civilian massacres in Gaza before someone in the West says enough is the topic of this segment of your Press TV's Spotlight. Joining us now is Mr. Richard Becker, the anti-war activist from the Answer Coalition out of San Francisco, California. And Daniel Patrick Welch, geopolitical analyst, joining us out of Boston. Gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you both to the program. Mr. Becker, I guess we can start with you, sir. Pleasure to have you on. Now, the massacre list is obviously too lengthy of a list to cover in its entirety, but the point is just that, isn't it? That why do we need to document so many civilian massacres in one conflict that hasn't even reached a year's duration, sir?
Well, it's truly outrageous. It's beyond outrageous. It's beyond any description. The mass murder that continues, the genocidal campaign that the state of Israel is waging with the support, as you indicate, of the support of the United States. The United States has, we don't know how many missions have been emergency resupply of these 2,000-pound, 1,000-pound bombs, artillery shells to Israel, and the fighter bombers that go over face no opposition. There are no air defenses in Gaza. There haven't been since the beginning. Those who are dropping the bombs and those who are giving the orders to drop the bombs should all be considered as terrorists, should all face justice if there was any justice in the world today, and there's very little. So this is something that is the horrors that are being inflicted upon the Palestinian people day in and day out are treated as much less important in the U.S. mass media than the death of even one Israeli. So far more attention is given to the hostages than given to who number around 100 now than the tens of thousands of Palestinians who've been killed. We don't know the real number, and tens of thousands more who have been severely inflicted with life-changing injuries.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Daniel Patrick Welch, welcome to the program, sir. Over 41,100 Palestinians now killed in a little over 11 months, mostly, of course, women and children. Nearly 100,000 injured. Thousands are missing, presumed dead and buried under rubble. Your initial thoughts on Israel's continued wholesale slaughter of Gazas, and we should emphasize this for the 100,000th time, civilian population.
It is, as Mr. Becker said, it's outrageous. It is really beyond belief, and I think one of the things that escapes the American point of view is that this could not be the same if this were either reversed or it were a white population undergoing this kind of slaughter. One of the things that is coming to light, it's incredibly suppressed in the U.S. media and in U.S. politics. But this is not this is not an Israeli operation. I mean, obviously, they are the ones who are laying claim to this stretch of land, but this is a U.S. colonial project and has been for a very long time. And the U.S. using the same script, playing to the same band over and over again, will set up their proxies, or in this case, transplant Americans who go there, and they have a pool at the house that used to belong to a Palestinian family in the West Bank, but they have a house back in Brooklyn too. Helen Thomas used to say it jokingly all the time. These are Americans. This is a U.S. imperialist killing machine operation for the forward base of the land-based aircraft carrier that is alleged to be the state of Israel. And what you see, what is shocking, even having lived with this for and the distortion and the propagandist nature of the imperialist narrative, even having lived through all that, it's still shocking to see. You have a political debate for the major funders and beneficiaries of all this horror. The only two people who are going to have the right to sell the next rounds of bombs, and it doesn't even break. It's not even a real issue. And I think I don't know that they're connected. I don't know that they care, but their tight control over U.S. politics is extremely important and has been. And I think that in the wake of this farce of a debate, when these two idiot warmongers are trying to outmaneuver each other on how much they support this genocide, that's open season. If they do, sit back and listen and say, "Oh God, we're in no trouble there," then it's a green light to do whatever they want. And we haven't even talked yet about the West Bank. They have also taken the green card to go after the West Bank as well, and the Golan, and southern Lebanon and Iran. I mean, it is a free for all, and they are doing whatever they want and getting away with it right in the face of international view and right in front of their donors from the United States, who are actually the ones doing all this. It's a mess. It's unbelievable.
And Mr. Becker, that's an interesting assertion that this is more a U.S. imperialist colonial project than it is an operation by the Israelis. I'd like to actually put that question to you. I mean, it's evident U.S.'s complicity and involvement. There's no doubt there. It gives it over 74% of its weapons that the Israeli regime uses. 20+% comes from Berlin, a couple percent from the French and the British, the Australians. We all understand that U.S. plays a huge role in weapons deliveries, transfers to the regime. But in overall, in policy and in providing cover for the regime, how complicit, the level of complicity, I'd like you to elaborate on. Do you see the U.S.'s share in all of this?
Yes, it's interesting to recall that and to know that the state of Israel could not have come into being without the sponsorship of one or another of the big powers, the imperialist so-called great powers. When the Zionist project started, which isn't thousands of years ago, it was really announced itself to the world in 1897 at the first World Zionist Congress. But it had some big contradictions from the beginning, this movement. One of them was that while it was a reaction to very real anti-Semitism in Europe, undeniable, violent anti-Semitism in the Russian Empire and elsewhere, it was also a colonial project from the beginning. Its leaders said so. That's how we know that. Herzl, the first leader. But they had another contradiction, and that was they had no army and no navy. You can't be a colonial power. You can't be a colonizer. And so what the first 20 years of that movement dedicated itself to was finding a sponsor that did have an army and a navy, that did have the means of violence to bring about a colonial possession, to take possession as a colony. And that went on. The British were the main sponsor up until the 1940s. And then after the creation of the state with the illegal vote at the United Nations on November 29th, 1947, shortly afterwards, and for a period of time, France became the sponsor. France armed Israel. They were flying Mirage jets back in the 1950s and early 60s. France gave Israel the atomic bomb. That's how Israel became a nuclear weapons power, was thanks to France. But it was after the 67 war, when Israel took possession of the West Bank and Gaza, Sinai Peninsula, and the Golan Heights, East Jerusalem, that the defeat that Israel inflicted on the military inflicted on Egypt and Syria in particular endeared Israel to the U.S. It was then that the U.S. became the main sponsor. It was a couple of years later that the millions of dollars in aid that had been coming from the U.S. to Israel became billions of dollars per year and vast amounts of weaponry. And without the sponsorship of the U.S., without the backing of the U.S., without the arming and the funding of the U.S., Israel could not continue, really. And the Israelis know this. And many people have left Israel since the beginning of the genocide last October. I mean, of course, that's a continuation of a long-term genocide. But, so in order to really survive in a world where it is highly isolated, it's the U.S. and Israel together. You can take examples of this, like last year at the United Nations, and we're coming up for another vote. Last year at the United Nations, when there was a vote on whether to end the U.S. blockade of Cuba, the vote was 187-2. And the two countries that voted against ending the blockade were the U.S. and Israel. So Israel cannot do what it does, could not possibly do what it does. In fact, Israel cannot really continue for very long without having the backing of the U.S. So is it a U.S. colony? In many ways it is. Many of the people who live there, include many of the leading figures, have dual citizenship. They're U.S. Israeli citizens. Probably the Israeli population is the most mobile in the world because it has so many people have more than one passport, and many of those who have two passports have an Israeli passport and a U.S. passport.
And Mr. Welch, really quick, because I wanted to kind of get back to the massacres of, and it is all related, and it goes hand in hand. But the Israeli project, is it more a colonial outpost for the West to the point of what both of you just shared, or a refuge for persecuted Jews?
I think that question has been clarified very quickly, and certainly over the last 20 years, as Brian has been saying. But I've heard, Noam Chomsky say in lectures at MIT to a woman in the audience saying that it's our only refuge. And he said, you're talking about the least safe place for Jews in the modern world. You're not. That's just not true what you're saying, because you can't be those things at the same time. And that's why I'm not trying to ignore that look at history, but French Indochina predated America's involvement there as well. This is how the imperialist dice roll. And the murders that took place from all over the American continent, basically at the behest of American imperialism, are no different in the way they have unfolded and the details that made them so abhorrent and amoral. That is not different because it claims to be something that it can't be. And it's not a unique history and a unique page of the imperialist playbook. And it's time to stop allowing that to be the narrative. That's not fair to history, and it's certainly not fair to the 200,000. That's what even the UN is, or parts of the UN are saying. Not 41,000. 200,000 Palestinians have died, at least.
Thank you. And Mr. Becker, regime timing again after these operations where it results in mass casualties, a massacre, literally mass murder, especially of civilian population. It says it was either unintentional or unfortunate or both, that there were Hamas command centers in the midst of the people there. Unintentional, just like journalist Shireen Abu Akleh that the UN ultimately said was deliberately killed by an Israeli sniper, shot to her head. Israeli regime forces. First it was a Palestinian fire, then it was unintentional Israeli fire, a narrative that the U.S. actually bought into. American Turkish activist that just got killed a couple days ago, Aisha Noor Agi, killed again by occupation sniper this week. The Washington Post said in its probe, it revealed it was in fact a deliberate targeting of this young lady. The regime once again says it was unintentional. Is there any doubt in your head that these murders are full of intent?
Yeah, no doubt at all. I mean, there can't be any doubt because you can't have massacre after massacre after massacre taking place and not understand, if you were being at all objective, not understand what the purpose of this is. And the purpose of it is to clear the people, to clear the Palestinians from as much of Gaza and the West Bank. And from the point of view of Netanyahu and his closest associates, they want to expel the Palestinian population altogether from the West Bank and from Gaza. That's been their aim all along. From the beginning of the Israeli state, back in 1948, there has been land hunger has dominated the every administration, regardless of who was the prime minister and which party was in power. They wanted land. They wanted more land. They considered from the beginning that although Israel conquered 78% of what had been the British Mandate of Palestine in the war of 1947-48, they never considered that to be the end. So we have, and if you look at the record of war after war after war, well, now we're having the war, the all-out war. The purpose is to clear the population from the land, to make Palestine, to ethnically cleanse Palestine once and for all.
And Mr. Welch, if I could please put that same question to you. I like your take as well. The regime's numerous excuses for these high civilian deaths, women, children, doctors, nurses, the elderly, journalists, aid workers, and activists. Now, unfortunate and unintentional seems the definition of the word intent is epitomized basically in every attack we see from the Israelis.
Yeah, it's ethnic cleansing. It's genocide basically. There's no question about that. And it's as Brian was saying, this is Ariel Sharon said, grab some hills. What the first thing we do, grab some hills. All right, you want towering heights on which to murder the indigenous population. And we're sitting here, both of us in the U.S., I mean, slaughtered by various means up to 50, 100 million indigenous inhabitants and took their land and made a country out of it. This is not, and that sleazy talk about intention, non-intention, we didn't mean it. You see that, and you see it in the U.S. political narrative. It's unbelievable. Where the best side of this, under killer Kamala Harris, said, well, we're going to give them everything they want because they have to defend themselves, and then we're going to rebuild Palestine. A bizarro world, absolutely insane way of talking, of anti-logic that these people have constantly used to redefine truth. Intent? It's a ridiculous concept to even catch you in. It's like a lawyer arguing you out of a traffic ticket. It's like you have to stop saying, listen, I'm not listening to this crap anymore. You're not making any sense. You can't tell me about intent and use this language and this narrative and this anti-history and this kind of browbeating, gaslighting, and lying. It's just not acceptable. And like we've been saying for the past few minutes, Everyone gets it except for these two entities, and it's amazing.
But Mr. Becker, thank you, Mr. Welch. Mr. Becker, you very well know we don't have much time left. I really want to get this question out to you. Every Western government that is arming Tel Aviv has within its own tenets laws that govern the sales of transfers of weapons to a regime when they know it's being used disproportionately against civilians and or to be using to violate international law or international humanitarian law. Why are they willing to go above and beyond their own laws and international law to be complicit in what Israel is doing to Palestinians?
Well, some time ago, some decades ago, the U.S. stopped referring to a world system based on international law, and instead, the leaders talk about rules-based order.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a rules-based order where they make the rules, and everyone in the poorer part of the world, the global South, so much of the world has to live by, or supposed to live by, the rules that they establish, which are in gross violation of international law. And all of those who are supplying the state of Israel with its weaponry to carry out this genocide know that they are committing violations of international law, and they don't think that they have to pay any attention to it.
And you want to get your final thoughts on that? I'm glad you mentioned rule-based order, Mr. Welch. And you get your final thoughts. And I remember an episode of Home Improvement where the guy said there's only one general rule in this house, that I'm the general and I make the rules.
That is exactly on point. They have used the invention of language to redefine everything in their favor. And I was thinking exactly the same thing at the same time. Rules-based international order. It's a scam. And the way you push back is over time, and not silently, but what Russia and China and Iran are doing is getting together and fighting back against the bully in the schoolyard with every available means. And guess what? They are going to win.
Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us on the program. Pleasure to have both of you on. Mr. Richard Becker, anti-war activist from the Answer Coalition. They're joining us from San Francisco, California. And Mr. Daniel Patrick Welch, geopolitical analyst, joining us out of Boston, Massachusetts. And viewers, this brings us to the end of this segment of your Press TV Spotlight. Thank you for tuning in, and goodbye for now.